The royal vessel Celestial Dawn drifted through the void of space, its elegant hull gleaming under distant starlight. Princess Jia stood at the observation deck, watching the escort ships that flanked their vessel. Her ceremonial trip to the outer colony should have been routine, but fate had other plans. The first blast caught everyone off guard. Red energy beams sliced through the nearest escort ship, turning it into a burning wreck. Pirates materialized from quantum space, 5 sleek attack ships bearing the Crimson Blade insignia. Their reputation for ruthlessness was legendary. "Your Highness, we need to move." Captain Han of the Royal Guard grabbed Jia Yun's arm. Alarms blared throughout the ship as they ran through the corridors. The princess's heart pounded against her chest as crew members rushed past, manning battle stations. More explosions rocked the vessel. Through the windows, Jia Yun saw the remaining escorts being systematically disabled. The pirates were professionals. They wanted the royal ship intact. That meant hostages. That meant her. "In here." Captain Han opened a maintenance shaft. "Stay hidden until I return." He pressed a small emergency beacon into her trembling hands. Jia Yun clutched her ceremonial necklace, a family heirloom that had been passed down through generations. Screams echoed through the ship as the pirates breached the hull. The sounds of plasma fire and combat grew closer. Jia Yun curled up in the darkness, trying to make herself as small as possible. Her royal guards wouldn't stand a chance against the Crimson Blade mercenaries. The ship's internal comms crackled. "This is Captain Vex of the Crimson Blade. Surrender the princess, and we'll let the crew live. Resist, and we space everyone." The pirate's voice was cold, calculating. Minutes felt like hours as Jia Yun listened to the fighting move deck by deck. The pirates were methodically searching the ship. It was only a matter of time before they found her. She activated the emergency beacon, knowing it was probably futile. They were too far from any Imperial outposts. Suddenly, a new alarm blared. Proximity alert. Through a small maintenance window, Jia Yun saw a massive ship drop out of hyperspace. Its design was unlike anything she'd seen before. Angular, utilitarian, bristling with weapons. The hull markings identified it as human, one of the newer species to join the galactic community. The human ship didn't bother with warnings. It opened fire immediately, its advanced targeting systems precisely disabling the pirate vessel's engines. The pirates responded with everything they had, but their weapons seemed to barely scratch the human ship's armor. Jia Yun heard new sounds of combat, different from before. Single shots, precise and deadly, followed by bodies hitting the deck. Someone was systematically eliminating the pirates, moving with incredible speed and efficiency. The maintenance shaft's door slid open. Jia Yun stifled a scream as she found herself staring down the barrel of an exotic weapon. The human wielding it immediately lowered it. "Your Highness, Captain Li Hyunwoo, Earth Special Forces. Are you injured?" She shook her head, taking in his appearance. The human wore black combat armor unlike the bulky suits her people used. A distinctive scar ran down the left side of his face, and his eyes held an intensity that made her breath catch. "Stay behind me," he ordered, helping her up. As they moved through the corridors, Jia Yun witnessed the aftermath of his handiwork. The pirates lay unconscious or dead, taken down with surgical precision. Not a single crew member had been harmed in his assault. They encountered a final group of pirates near the bridge. Li moved like lightning, his augmented reflexes making him seem almost supernatural. 5 pirates down in as many seconds. Jia Yun had never seen anyone fight like that. "Bridge is secure," Li reported into his comm. "Princess is safe. Beginning cleanup." He turned to Jia Yun. "Your ship will be operational within the hour. We've detained the survivors for questioning." "How did you find us so quickly?" Jia Yun asked, still trying to process everything that had happened. Li's expression remained professional. "We've been tracking the Crimson Blade. Your distress call gave us the opening we needed." He paused, looking at her directly. "The humans may be new to your galaxy, Your Highness, but we take our alliance responsibility seriously." Before Jai-yun could respond, more human troops arrived to secure the ship. In the confusion of medical teams and damage control crews, Lee disappeared. By the time things calmed down, the human battlecruiser had already departed, leaving behind only questions and the memory of those intense eyes and that distinctive scar. That day marked the beginning of changed perceptions. The nobility had dismissed humans as primitive newcomers, but Jai-yun had seen firsthand what they were capable of. One human had done what an entire security detail couldn't. As she watched the stars through the repaired observation deck, she knew she would never forget Captain Lee Hyunwoo, the human who had appeared from nowhere to save her life. Princess Jai-yun stared out the crystal windows of the Grand Council chamber, watching ships drift through the capital's orbit while trying to maintain her composure. The chamber's ornate walls, covered in holographic displays showing the Empire's vast territories, seemed to close in around her as High Lord Kim Ta-hyung presented yet another marriage candidate. House Yong offers their eldest son, a graduate of the Imperial Academy with distinguished honors. Lord Kim's voice droned on. Their mining operations in the Outer Rim would significantly strengthen our resource security. Jai-yun resisted the urge to sigh. 10 years had passed since the pirate attack, and she had grown from a young princess into a capable woman of 28. Yet here she sat, being paraded with potential suitors like a prized breeding mare. Emperor Song Min-ho watched his daughter from his elevated throne. Age had silvered his hair, but his eyes remained sharp as ever. He noted how Jai-yun's fingers unconsciously touched the ceremonial necklace she always wore, a habit she'd developed since that fateful day. "The Yong family's proposal is generous," another counselor added. "Their military forces would be a valuable addition to the imperial fleet, especially given the recent colonial uprisings." Jai-yun finally spoke, her voice calm but firm. "And what are their views on technological advancement and interspecies cooperation? Do they still support the isolation policies?" An uncomfortable silence fell over the chamber. House Yong was known for their conservative stance, opposing closer ties with newer spacefaring races, especially humans. "Your Highness," Lord Kim cleared his throat. "Traditional values have preserved our empire for 10,000 years. Change must be measured careful. Like how carefully we measured the pirate threat 10 years ago." Jai-yun's words cut through the chamber. "If not for rapid adaptation and outside help, I wouldn't be here to entertain these proposals." Emperor Song raised his hand, silencing the murmurs that broke out. "My daughter raises a valid point. The galaxy changes whether we wish it or not. But the common houses are growing restless, Your Majesty," another counselor interjected. "They expect the princess to marry within the year. The betting pools in the lower districts favor House Park's second son." Jai-yun stood, her ceremonial robes shimmering with embedded starlight. "The common houses are restless because they see our empire stagnating while others advance. Half our colonies lack modern medical facilities while we debate marriage alliances. Which is precisely why we need these alliances," Lord Kim insisted. "House Chen's trading networks would keep us dependent on traditional supply lines when we could be developing our own technological base." Jai-yun interrupted. "The humans achieved in 50 years what took us 5 centuries. The chamber erupted in protests. Emperor Song watched silently as his daughter held her ground against the tide of opposition. She had her mother's spirit, and her mother's dangerous habit of speaking uncomfortable truths. "The Empire's stability," Lord Kim began. "The chamber erupted in protests. The aggressive species from the Outer Rim," someone shouted. "They're too dangerous," called another voice. Hae-yoon raised her hand for silence again. "Junior diplomat, you're suggesting we contact the very species we voted to isolate, the ones classified as Category 4 aggressive?" "Yes," Sunwoo stated firmly. "Look at their history. When faced with threats, they unite. When others are in danger, they fight to protect them. The very traits we feared might be our salvation." The Supreme Counselor studied the images of Earth thoughtfully. They have no space combat capability. Their technology is far behind ours. But they have what we lack, the will to fight. We can provide the technology. They can provide the strength we need. Sun Wu projected more images, humans rescuing others from disasters, soldiers protecting civilians, peaceful protesters standing up against injustice. Before anyone could respond, emergency alerts flashed across all screens. A new report was coming in. The Nexoids had just destroyed a refugee convoy. The footage showed thousands of civilian ships being torn apart, many carrying children evacuated from the latest fallen worlds. The chamber fell completely silent. Heyoom's composed facade cracked slightly as she watched the destruction. After a long moment, she turned to Sun Wu. "Tell me more about these humans and their protective anger. Tell me why we should trust them when we feared them for so long." Sun Wu stepped onto the main platform, his heart racing. He knew this was the moment that could change everything. As he prepared to make his case, he glanced at the screens still showing the destroyed refugee ships. He silently hoped that the humans would prove to be exactly what the galaxy needed, a species whose capacity for anger was matched only by their desire to protect those who couldn't protect themselves. The fate of countless worlds now hung on his ability to convince the Council that humanity's greatest flaw might actually be their greatest gift to the galaxy. The very trait that had caused the Ardanians to fear them years ago might be the only thing that could save them all from extinction. The destruction of the refugee transport Star Cradle sent shockwaves through the galactic community. The massive ship had carried over 10,000 children from 12 different species, evacuated from worlds in the Nexoid's path. Now it was nothing but scattered debris in the cold void of space. In the council chambers, the normally stoic representatives openly grieved. Even the crystalline Ardanians, known for their emotional restraint, shed tears that fell like diamond drops to the floor. Supreme Counselor Heyoom stood before the central display, watching the rescue ships searching hopelessly through the wreckage. No survivors, came the final report, echoing through the silent chamber. Young diplomat Sun Wu didn't wait for permission this time. He strode directly to the center of the chamber, his footsteps echoing on the polished floor. "Supreme Counselor, I request an emergency audience." Now. Heyoom turned to face him, her eyes still wet with tears. "Speak, diplomat Sun Wu." "We need the humans," he stated simply, his voice carrying to every corner of the vast room. "Their perceived aggression is exactly what we need. They fight to protect. What we see as a flaw is actually their greatest strength." The chamber erupted in voices. The Vorn representative rose, his feathered crest bristling. "They're savages. They still fight among themselves." "Yes," Sun Wu countered. "They fight among themselves. For justice, for protection, for what they believe is right. Imagine that fierce protective instinct turned against our real enemy." Heyoom raised her hand for silence. "Show me," she commanded. Sun Wu projected historical images from Earth. Firefighters rushing into burning buildings, soldiers carrying civilians from disaster zones, protesters standing against tanks, medical teams working in war zones. They don't just fight, they protect. Their anger serves a purpose. While we debate, more children die. We need their fire. The council chamber fell quiet as the images played. Heyoom studied them intently, her expression thoughtful. After what seemed like an eternity, she spoke. "The human planet has no unified government. How would we even approach them?" Sun Wu was ready for this question. He brought up new data streams. They'd formed a United Defense Council in response to growing threats from their own space debris and asteroid risks. It includes military and civilian leaders from all major nations. That's our contact point. Instead, they had just initiated the greatest unified technological advancement in human history. The next 5 years would change everything, not just for Earth, but for the entire galaxy. The race against time had begun. The massive underwater facility stretched for miles beneath the Pacific Ocean floor, its vast chambers filled with the sounds of construction and innovation. Dr. Nam Yuri stood at the observation window, watching as robotic arms assembled sections of what would become humanity's most advanced spacecraft. The sight still amazed her, even after 3 years of work. "Dr. Nam, the latest quantum core tests are complete," announced Chief Engineer Kang Jae-ho, walking up beside her with a tablet in hand. "The results are better than we hoped." Yuri took the tablet, her eyes scanning the data quickly. The quantum propulsion system she had designed was performing at 300% above their initial projections. Combined with Jae-ho's revolutionary shield technology, they were creating something unprecedented in human history. "They expect us to copy their designs," Yuri said to Jae-ho as they reviewed the blueprints floating in the holographic display. "They don't understand human creativity." The shield testing chamber below them hummed to life, its massive generators powering up. Unlike the Galactic Council's energy shields, which created simple barriers, Jae-ho's design worked differently. It bent space itself around the ships, creating a bubble of altered reality that could absorb or redirect any known form of energy. "Watch this," Jae-ho said, pressing a sequence on his control panel. In the chamber below, a test section of hull plating disappeared from view as the shield activated. "We've managed to incorporate the quantum fluctuation effect into the shield matrix." Yuri smiled. "Making our ships effectively invisible to their sensors. Perfect." The facility itself was a testament to human determination. Built in absolute secrecy, it housed over 10,000 of Earth's brightest minds. Engineers, physicists, mathematicians, and builders worked around the clock, pushing the boundaries of what was possible. "How's the new drive core coming along?" Jae-ho asked as they walked through the main construction bay. Above them, massive cranes moved hull sections into place with precision. "We've solved the containment issue," Yuri replied. "Instead of fighting the quantum instability, we're using it. The drive doesn't just move through space. It surfs probability waves." A group of young engineers hurried past, carrying what looked like a glowing cube of pure energy. 3 years ago, such technology would have seemed impossible. Now it was just another Tuesday in the facility. "The council thinks we're still struggling with basic ion drives," Jae-ho chuckled. "Wait until they see these ships move." They reached the central design hub, where hundreds of screens showed various aspects of the project. Each ship was a masterpiece of human ingenuity, incorporating technologies that had evolved from wild theories into working systems. "Remember when we started?" Yuri asked, looking at an early design sketch. "Everyone said it couldn't be done. That we needed decades, not years." "Everyone except us," Jae-ho replied, pulling up the current construction schedule. They were ahead of timeline, something that would have seemed impossible at the start. The ships taking shape in the construction bays looked deceptively simple from the outside. Clean lines, smooth surfaces, nothing like the crystalline structures of council vessels. But beneath those plain exteriors lay technology that would change the galaxy's understanding of what was possible. "Latest test results from Bay 7, called out one of the technicians. "Weapon systems are online and functioning at 115% of projected capacity." The weapons were another example of human creativity. Instead of copying the Council's energy-based weapons, they had developed something new. Quantum-locked particles that could bypass any known shield technology, delivered with pinpoint accuracy. "We're not just building more ships," Yuri said quietly to Jae-ho. "We're rewriting the rules of space combat." Their conversation was interrupted by an alert from the communication system. The facility's director needed them in the command center. As they walked, they passed dozens of testing chambers, each working on different aspects of the project. In one room, scientists were perfecting the neural interface systems that would allow crews to control their ships with thought alone. In another, engineers were running simulations of the new tactical systems that could predict and counter any known form of attack. "Dr. Nam, Chief Kang," the director greeted them as they entered the command center. "We've just received word from Surface Command. The Council has sent another observation ship to check on our progress." "Let them look," Jae-ho said confidently. "All they'll see is what we want them to see." The surface shipyards were building decoy vessels, ships that looked like simple improvements on Earth's previous designs. The real fleet, the one that would shock the galaxy, was taking shape deep beneath the ocean. 2 more years, Yuri said, looking at the countdown display on the wall. 2 more years to finish what we started. 2 years to prove that humanity doesn't just catch up, Jaiho added. We leap forward. As they returned to their work, the facility continued its relentless pace. In labs and construction bays, in testing chambers and design rooms, humanity's answer to the Council's challenge took shape. Each day brought new breakthroughs, new innovations, new possibilities. The Council had given Earth 5 years to prove itself worthy of joining galactic civilization. They didn't realize they had given humanity exactly what it needed: a challenge, a deadline, and most importantly, something to prove. Deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, the future was being built, one impossible breakthrough at a time. They don't understand human creativity, Yuri repeated softly, watching another test section disappear into quantum invisibility. And that's exactly why we're going to win. The lunar dust settled as Earth's new fleet emerged from its hidden base beneath the moon's surface. Captain Yu Min-seo stood on the bridge of the flagship Determination, watching with quiet satisfaction as her ships took formation in space. 5 years of secrecy, innovation, and relentless work had led to this moment. All ships report ready, Captain, Lieutenant Choi Han-bin announced from his station. The young officer's voice carried a hint of excitement he couldn't quite hide. The fleet's appearance was deliberately understated. Smooth, gunmetal gray hulls with minimal external features made the ships look almost primitive. No visible weapons, no obvious shield generators, nothing that would hint at their true capabilities. It was exactly as planned. Council inspection vessel approaching, the sensor officer reported. They're hailing us. On screen, Min-seo ordered, straightening her uniform. The Council inspector's face appeared on the main display, his crystalline features arranged in an expression of obvious disappointment. These vessels appear even more primitive than your previous models, he noted with undisguised disdain. Lieutenant Choi exchanged knowing glances with Min-seo. They had expected this reaction. The Council's arrogance would make the upcoming demonstration even more satisfying. We have worked within our capabilities, Inspector, Min-seo replied diplomatically. We would be honored to give you a tour of our new flagship. The inspection team arrived in their shuttle, which looked absurdly ornate next to the clean lines of the Earth vessels. 6 Council representatives, their living armor shifting colors in the artificial lighting, stepped onto the Determination's deck. Your docking procedures are still manual, one inspector asked, making notes on a hovering datapad. No quantum guidance systems. We find traditional methods reliable. Min-seo responded, leading them toward the bridge. She could feel their dismissive gazes taking in every detail of her ship. The tour proceeded exactly as the Earth commanders had anticipated. The Council team found fault with everything they saw, or rather, everything they thought they saw. The ship's apparent simplicity fed their preconceptions perfectly. Your navigation systems still use holographic displays. Another inspector scoffed. The Council abandoned such crude interfaces centuries ago. Lieutenant Choi maintained his professional demeanor, but Min-seo could see the amusement in his eyes. The crude displays were actually quantum-linked neural interfaces, disguised to look primitive. Everything the Council team dismissed as backward was hiding technology that would shock them. Perhaps we should proceed to the engine room, Min-seo suggested, knowing what would come next. The chief inspector's armor rippled with purple disdain as they entered the engineering section. Chemical propulsion. After 5 years, this is your advancement. What the inspector saw as chemical engines were actually housings for Dr. Nam's quantum drive system. The fuel tanks contained technology that could bend space itself. But for now, they played their parts. We have made improvements to efficiency, Min-seo offered modestly, watching the inspectors shake their heads in disappointment. The Council's patience has limits, the chief inspector declared as they completed the tour. These vessels barely meet the standards of a pre-spaceflight civilization. Perhaps we were too optimistic about humanity's potential. Min-Seo nodded solemnly, fighting to keep the smile from her face. We understand, Inspector. Would you like to observe a small demonstration of our capabilities before you leave? The inspector's armor shifted to a patronizing shade of blue. If you insist, Captain. Though I doubt we'll see anything impressive. Back on the bridge, Min-Seo gave a subtle nod to Lieutenant Choi. The real show was about to begin. All ships, assume demonstration formation, she ordered. The fleet moved with impossible precision, ships sliding into position without using any visible propulsion. Interesting, one inspector muttered, checking readings on his devices. Our sensors cannot detect your maneuvering thrusters. That's because we don't use them, Min-Seo thought, but kept silent. The council team's confusion was only beginning. Something is wrong with our instruments, another inspector announced, tapping his datapad frantically. We're getting impossible readings from your vessels. Min-Seo allowed herself a small smile. Is there a problem, Inspector? These energy signatures, they can't be right. Our sensors must be malfunctioning. The council team watched in growing bewilderment as Earth's fleet performed maneuvers that should have been impossible with the technology they thought they were seeing. Ships moved with perfect coordination, responding instantly to commands, displaying capabilities that contradicted everything they had observed during their inspection. Captain, the chief inspector's voice had lost its condescending tone, replaced by something closer to concern. What exactly are we watching? Just a demonstration of Earth's current capabilities, Min-Seo replied calmly. Would you like to see more? The inspectors huddled together, their armor colors shifting rapidly as they conferred in their own language. When they turned back, their earlier arrogance had vanished. We will need to report this to the council immediately, the chief inspector announced. These demonstrations require further analysis. As the inspection team hurried back to their shuttle, Lieutenant Choi finally allowed himself to grin. They don't look quite so superior now, do they, Captain? Min-Seo watched the council vessel depart, its crew undoubtedly struggling to understand what they had witnessed. This was just the beginning, Lieutenant. Wait until they see what these ships can really do. The Earth fleet hung silently in space, their simple exterior hiding technologies that would redefine what the galaxy thought possible. Humanity had been challenged, dismissed, and underestimated. Now it was time to show the council exactly how wrong they had been. The tension in space was palpable as the council's observation fleet took position around the designated demonstration area. Admiral Yu Min-Seo stood at the center of Determination's bridge, her expression calm despite the weight of the moment. Everything they had worked for came down to this. All ships report ready, Admiral, Lieutenant Choi announced. The council vessels are in position. Min-Seo nodded, then spoke clearly into the fleet-wide channel. Weapons free. The transformation was instant and dramatic. The smooth, seemingly primitive hulls of Earth's ships rippled and shifted. Panels that had appeared to be simple armor plating separated and realigned, revealing sophisticated weapon systems that had been perfectly concealed. The fleet's true form emerged like butterflies from their chrysalises. By the eternal stars came the startled voice of the council's senior observer over the comm channel. What are we seeing? Dr. Nam's quantum shields. Online, reported Lieutenant Choi. The air around Earth's ships seemed to bend and twist as overlapping fields of altered spacetime sprang into existence. The shields weren't just barriers. They were bubbles of manipulated reality. The Council's sensors, designed to detect and analyze conventional energy shields, went haywire. Their readings showed impossible patterns, energy signatures that shouldn't exist, and spatial distortions that defied their understanding of physics. Begin demonstration sequence 1. Min-Seo ordered. The Earth fleet moved. Not with the expected acceleration of conventional drives, but with instant, precise movements that seemed to ignore the laws of inertia. Ships appeared to be in multiple places at once, leaving quantum echoes in their wake that confused both sensors and organic eyes. "Impossible," muttered the Council observer. "Your ships cannot move like that. The energy requirements alone would." Phase 2, Min Seo interrupted, allowing herself a small smile. Combat demonstration. The demonstration area lit up as Earth's ships began their carefully choreographed battle dance. Weapons that had been disguised as structural elements came to life. Instead of conventional energy beams or projectiles, they fired streams of quantum-locked particles that could pass through any known shield technology. "These readings cannot be correct," another Council observer protested. "Our sensors show your weapons aren't actually firing anything, yet they're registering impacts." Min Seo watched as her ships performed maneuvers that the Council had declared impossible during their inspection. The hybrid drives Dr. Nam had designed didn't just move through space. They manipulated it, creating shortcuts through reality itself. "Show them the Avalon maneuver," she ordered. 3 Earth ships moved in perfect synchronization, their quantum shields merging into a single field. They spun together, creating a vortex in space-time that pulled in all energy weapons fired at them, then redirected the energy back at its source. The Council observation fleet retreated to a safer distance, their previous confidence replaced by obvious concern. Their own sensors were useless now, showing contradictory readings that their systems couldn't interpret. "Would you like to see our defensive capabilities?" Min Seo offered politely. Without waiting for a response, she gave the next order. "All ships, initiate stealth protocols." The Earth fleet vanished, not with cloaking devices or sensor jamming, but by shifting slightly out of phase with normal spacetime. To the Council's observers, it appeared as if humanity's ships had simply ceased to exist. "Impossible," the senior observer breathed. "Our sensors show nothing." "As if your fleet was never here." "Oh, we're still here," Min Seo assured them. "Lieutenant Choi, demonstrate our targeting capabilities." Small quantum bursts appeared around each Council vessel, harmless but precise, marking exact kill points that their supposedly superior shields couldn't block. "These are not simple warning shots," Min Seo explained calmly. "Each burst represents a quantum-locked particle cluster that could, if this were actual combat, disable your ships instantly." The Earth fleet reappeared, arranging itself in a formation that would have been impossible with conventional drives. The ships moved as one, their quantum shields creating patterns in space that looked like rippling silk. "Final demonstration," Min Seo announced. "All ships, initiate quantum jump." The fleet didn't enter hyperspace or use conventional FTL drives. Instead, they simply ceased to exist in one location and appeared in another, 50 light-years away, then returned instantly. The movement wasn't just faster than light. It ignored the very concept of space-time travel. When they reappeared, the Council observation fleet had backed away to what they considered a safe distance. Their earlier dismissive attitude was gone, replaced by something that looked very much like fear. "The Council will need to reevaluate its assessment of Earth's technological capabilities," the senior observer said carefully. "We clearly misunderstood your potential." Min Seo allowed herself a broader smile. "That's been happening a lot lately. Humanity has that effect on people." As the Council fleet prepared to depart, Lieutenant Choi turned to his admiral. "Should we show them the really advanced systems?" Min Seo shook her head. "Always keep something in reserve, Lieutenant." Besides, she added with a slight smile, "I think they've seen enough for one day." The Earth fleet resumed its seemingly simple appearance, weapon systems, and quantum technology, hidden once again beneath smooth hull plating. But the message had been sent. Humanity wasn't just catching up to galactic civilization. They had leaped far beyond it.